Hey ya, Tay here. It's been a while. I didn't do a devlog for February since it's a short month, and to be honest, I didn't get a ton done in February. Then my birthday was this month, and I was super busy for that. So March and February get a combined devlog, and yet it still somehow feels like I got less done in these 2 months than I did in January. So February was the month of bug fixing and coding. I started off by doing an in-depth playthrough of the completed parts of my game and making note of bugs, flow issues, etc. And one major issue that I ran into was with my skit system. The way I had it before, calling the skits was entirely evented. And it worked, mostly, but it had some holes in the logic, and also just some super roundabout ways of doing things. I'll tell you how I did it before, but okay, don't judge me for my obvious dumb choices. I'm just one person. Also, fair warning, this is gonna get a little bit technical. Basically, when I was setting up my skit system, I realized right away that the actual plugin that makes the faces and stuff wasn't going to be compatible with my map zoom plugin. So while the ideal thing would have been to call the skits on the current map via common event, the faces were broken and I didn't even know if I was going to like the skit plugin at that point. So I just wanted to make it work without a bunch of plugin compatibility edits. Basically what I did was I set up a blank map with different auto-run events that would be called based on variables. For example, let's say we're in Chapter 1 and Chapter 1's skit variable is set to 4. That would trigger a specific page on this event in this blank map, and that would auto-run. But how would the player get to the map? The way I did it was pressing the page down button that would call a common event that would save the player's map location, take a screenshot of the current map, fade out the screen, transfer the player to the blank map, load the screenshot it just took as a parallax background in the blank map, fade in the screen, and then play the skit based on what number the variable was at. There are a lot of problems with this method. First, it's not smooth, because it fades out then fades back in, and because we were going to specific pages to play skits, this meant that there was only ever one available skit, like, at a time, which completely stopped the ability to rewatch skits after you've, unlocked a new one. And what if some of the more random skits triggered by things like how many steps you've taken or what food you just ate become active at the same time as another skit? The one on the higher number page is what's going to trigger. So do we just miss the other one? And then my screenshot plugin was even trying to fail on me. It worked at first. It was okay until it just wasn't. So I decided that it was time to get down and dirty and make my own code. The logic of the code is still weird, fair warning. I wanted an unobtrusive notification system thing that would let the player know when a new skit was unlocked. And I also wanted the ability to have more than one active skit at a time available to watch. But first and foremost, I had to make my skit plugin compatible with the map zoom plugin. I added logic into the skit plugin to ignore the zoomed inness of the map and always show it 100% scale with the screen. This was a pain. It involved math. I don't do math, but with the newfound ability to call skits on the map, my weird empty skit map was rendered obsolete, and I had to go about switching all those pages of events into common events instead, which is so much more organized and so much better. I also thought it would be cute for each skit to have a little name, so I named the common events with the skit's name. This would become useful later. And then for calling the skits, how was I going to have multiple active skits that could be watched and rewatched? I needed to make a menu, so I got to coding again. I made a very simple menu. It's basically just a list. I decided that if a skit was to be active, it would have a corresponding switch that would be turned on. So I made individual switches for every skit. Don't come at me and tell me there's a better way to do it, because I'm not redoing it. Each skit has a corresponding switch that I turn on or off to indicate whether or not it's available. Okay, awesome. So the plugin checks all of the switches between numbers 499 and 1000, which I designated as skit switches. And if any of those switches are on, it lists the name of the common event with the corresponding number that relates to the switch. So if number 510 switch is on, then common event 510's name will be displayed as part of the list. And then going further, I thought it would be interesting to have a differentiation between skits you've already watched and skits that are brand new. So brand new skits' names are listed in black, but already watched skits' names are gray. So now you can rewatch skits for the entire time that they're active, and you can see which ones you've watched and you haven't watched yet. At the end of chapters or major plot points, I turn off all of the previous chapter skits within, events. And some skits are area instead of story-based, so those get turned off when leaving an area. And then the more random gameplay-based skits get turned off when reaching different gameplay milestones. It's all a little bit complicated, but it's working really well, actually. So the last step was the notification. This one you can suggest ways to make it better, because I'm willing to redo this. As it is now, every time a new skit is turned on, it also turns on a specific switch, which is my new skit notification switch. Since so many skits are turned on during cutscenes or on map changes, I didn't want my new skit notification to go off as soon as you get out of a cutscene or as soon as a new map is loaded. So I put a timed wait on the notification. Basically, the notification switch triggers a different common event that waits 5 or 6 seconds after being activated to play a little sound and then show a picture in the top right corner of the screen before erasing it. However, when a skit is active, technically it becomes available before the notification shows. I mean, the notification is meant to be a reminder, and probably I'm even going to add an option in the menu to turn it off anyway, so I don't think this is a big deal. If you're super on board with opening the skit menu and happen to see a skit before the notification pops up, I made it to where the skit notification switch turns off and the notification won't trigger. But I feel like there could be better ways to do this, so if you have any ideas, please let me know. The next major thing I did was another overhaul of turning something evented into something coded. I know, I'm sorry. Round 2. This wasn't exactly broken, per se, but I knew for a while that my friendship system needed to be more robust. I looked into MoogleX's friendship plugin, and yeah, it's good, but I feel better when I DIY stuff, so I just made my own. To start, I just overused variables again, and I made a variable for every possible friendship combination between the party members. Yes, this is not efficient or flexible. Yes, my friends who are actual programmers shook their heads at this and tried to encourage me to change it. No, I'm not changing it. This is what works for my purposes. I wanted easy to reference variables that I could actually use within the RPG Maker built-in event system stuff. I wanted to be able to control variables and to adjust them. Now, the plugin, my friendship system plugin does a number of simple things in tandem. First, every time 2 characters are in battle together, their friendship variable gets a +1. Also, every time 2 characters are both affected by a particular state, their friendship variable gets a +2. I'm using a really nifty battle formation plugin. Here it is. It's Nina's battle formation by Nina Corvo or something? Yeah. This replaces my default formation stuff from the menu. But all the formations actually do are change the battle members' X and Y positions and attach states to party members. So I have one formation that's woo, friendship, where 2 of the 3 battle members basically hold hands with each other and ride off into the sunset during each battle. I also gave myself some easy plugin commands just to add or remove friendship points when I want. Obviously, I can do this with the built-in control variables like I was talking about, and especially if I'm going to do more complex equations or change the variable based on other variables, I should absolutely use the built-in control variables. Okay, and then the final addition to the friendship system is not done, because it doesn't have a UI yet, but it's done on the back end, and it's actually really cool. I'm so excited about this one. So I built a custom scene to display the party friendships. It's like a web. I call it Friendship Web. So the selected actor is shown in the center of the web, and every party member is shown in a relationship spot on the web. The spots that get populated and like which ones are blank depend on how many party members there are and their formation and etc. So in the relationship spots, the other party members who aren't the selected actor have their face image shown. Ignore the placeholder face graphics. I never use the actual face images in the game except for now apparently. So I keep forgetting to change out this default RPG Maker MV art for like my art. I'll do that eventually. Their name is listed below their face graphic in case you forget who the heck your friends are. And you might notice that word strangers there. I divided the friendship level up into different tiers basically. And this was sort of inspired by Wandering Sword. I don't know if any of you guys have played Wandering Sword, but I'm obsessed. So anyway, let's add some party members and talk to the crab of friendship. Welcome to my debug map, by the way. Ignore the naked man. I guess that's something else that I did this month. I drew the base for muscular men NPCs. There he is. That's him. He's the base. Anyway, so we're talking to the crab of friendship, the crab that randomizes all the party friendship variables. And then load the menu. This event calls it for no one, my main character, but you'll be able to view this from the menu like any other character selection based menu, like skills and status and stuff. Also, pressing page up and page down switches between party members, though that transition isn't fully prettified yet. And there it is! Friendship galore. Like I mentioned, the UI hasn't been made, but the back end is done, and that's exciting. Now, what else have I done? I worked on Chapter 4. It's nearly done, honestly, save a boss fight and one cutscene. In fact, it might be cool to take a little walk around Chapter 4. Most of it takes place in this old, dilapidated vampire castle. Chapters 2 and 3 were kind of dark, dreary, depressing ugh. So Chapter 4 is the first place in the game where things lighten up for a little bit. I made this area with thoughts and love of Halloween. And okay, so in my personal life, I am a massive fan of horror movies. I just love all things horror, spooky, creepy, Halloweeny. My version of relaxing in bed is listening to those like true scary Home Alone stories from Reddit. Intruder breaks into your house and is stalking you. You're going to die tonight. I love it. So I promise this has a point. I will get to a point, but I gotta talk about Vincent from Final Fantasy VII for a second. So Vincent Valentine is my favorite Final Fantasy character of all time, and it's not just because he's hot, though he is. I'm honestly like obsessed with how the developers used classic horror and slasher movies as the inspiration for Vincent. They put him in the coffin because, Dracula, and they gave him his horror movie transformation limit breaks, and he talks about the nightmare and whatever. Like, he's just such a self-indulgent and ridiculous character, but just that little tidbit about his development process is just so funny to me. So, like Vincent Valentine was the Final Fantasy VII devs' love letter to classic horror and slasher films, this area of my game, and the character you get in this area, is sort of my love letter to, I guess, RPG Maker horror games. I sort of grew up on games like Corpse Party and The Witch's House and You May Nikki, all of those classics. Also Pocket Mirror, which is the best one. And I wanted to have at least one section of my game that was kind of a shout out to those games that I love. So the Vampire Castle is puzzle heavy, with the same type of like whimsical and slightly creepy puzzle that you'd see in something like The Witch's House or Eve. And there's a number of locked doors, and to progress, you need to do strange things to get keys. Some of those strange things are you have to play the piano for a very sad statue who's crying. You have to light a bunch of candles and turn on some music so ghosts can dance. On a story level, this castle is basically overflowing with uncontrolled magic, so it would make sense within the world that the place is a little wonky and nonsensical. On a gameplay level, it means we get to take a break from regular old RPGing and do a different type of gameplay. Another type of gameplay that I included in this area is minigames. This one is the first part of the game that goes hard on minigames, and I know that minigames are controversial, and I know a lot of people hate them, and don't worry, they're all optional. But I am a minigame enthusiast. I love them. I just love them. Give me a minigame and I will spend the next 5 hours mastering it. So, once you unlock the upper halls of the castle, you get access to the pumpkin game room. The overflowing magic in this area has animated the vegetables in the garden and brought them to a semblance of life. And they're pretty cool little dudes. Well, the pumpkins at least. The radishes are basically incels. But some particularly entrepreneurial pumpkins decided to open up a small gambling hall for themselves and some ghosts and such. And this place is so goofy. You can play such games as bobbing for eyeballs, higher or lower, darts. You can play the prize wheel. The pumpkin game room is a smaller version of a carnival that the pumpkins open up way later in the game. And oh my god, I cannot wait to get to that part of the game. I love minigames. I love Halloween. It's like a harvest themed, fun. And okay, what else other than chapter 4? Oh, still on the horror theme, I made a boss monster that's inspired by old Japanese horror. Here she is, looking terrifying. I did a lot of small bug fixes, just various ones. Oh, here's something. I tried making some music for my game, and that shit is so hard. Why did you guys not tell me how hard that was when I so arrogantly, filled with such hubris, declared that I was going to try making music for my game? I didn't realize how hard that was. I don't know what I'm doing. Everything up until this point I figured out how to do on my own. I didn't know how to code, I learned how. I didn't know how to do pixel art, I learned how. I didn't know anything about making a game, and I learned how. But the music, this is the first time that I've been truly stumped. So if anyone has any advice, tips, anything, I keep telling myself that if Toby Fox could do it, so can I. But bros, I am struggling. Send help. I don't know how to do this. Okay, this is getting a little long, so I think I'm going to cut the video here. I'm sure I did other things, but these were the major headaches of the past 2 months. If you liked this video and want to support whatever it is going on over here, feel free to do all the YouTube button pushy things, or even consider buying me a cup of coffee. Or don't, it's okay. And as you're heading out, I should probably address, perhaps you noticed the 3-week gap between this video and the last one. I actually don't want to go more than 2 weeks in between videos, to be honest. But last week got hectic, and then I got confused about what the date was, and before I knew it... Anyway, let me know if there's any type of video you'd like to see. I'm actually working on something of a video series on game writing. I doubt I've mentioned this, but in one of my many other lives, I'm an author. And of course, game writing and novel writing are two totally different beasts. But since writing is such a passion of mine, I thought it could be fun to talk about writing for RPGs and sort of break down that process. So look forward to that coming out in the future. As for now, thanks so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate having you guys here. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the comments and in the next video. Bye bye!